and welcome to the Daily Aus. I'm Zara Seidler.
I'm Billi FitzSimons.
Earlier this week, the Royal Commission on Antisemitism and Social Cohesion held its first public hearing. It follows the December terrorist attack in Bondi when 15 innocent people were killed at a Jewish community event. In today's podcast, we're going to explain what a Royal Commission actually is, how this one came about, and what we can expect over the coming months.
Zara, this was a huge thing after the Bondi terror attack happened, that the Prime Minister was under increasing pressure to call a Royal Commission. And it kind of became this term that we heard so much about, but because of how infrequent they are, I'm not sure many people know exactly what they are and why they're such a big deal. So I think we should start there. What is a Royal Commission?
Yes, look, a good starting point, because you're right, it's one of those terms that gets used a lot, but many of us will have never really come face to face with one before. So a Royal Commission is a major investigation into something of great importance to the country. Now, Royal Commissions are established by a state or federal government, but they are fully independent. It's not a court, nobody's being tried, but instead think of it as a public inquiry. So in this case, the commission has strong powers to compel, so to ask witnesses to appear, to request information, and to consult with experts. Previously, there have been Royal Commissions into things like veteran suicides and the robo-debt scheme, just being two more recent examples. And to give context as to what can come out of a Royal Commission, the one into veteran suicide handed down its final report in September 2024. It made 122 recommendations based on what it heard during that time. So it received more than 5,800 public submissions, heard from 340 witnesses. And of the 122 recommendations, by the end of last year, so over a year after the commission had handed down its final report, the government said 32 recommendations had been implemented and that they were working their way through the rest of them. So these are huge bodies of work. I mean, 122 recommendations to a government is substantial, and they're not on a light topic. These are really meaty things that need to be changed. So then if we fast forward to this specific one, this inquiry is into anti-Semitism and social cohesion. As we said, it follows the Bondi terrorist attacks, and it will be led by former High Court Justice Virginia Bell, who was a federal High Court Justice from 2009 to 2021.
And this was such a big deal when Prime Minister Anthony Albanese called the Royal Commission because, I mean, it's easy to forget now, but there was a period of a few weeks there where there was mounting pressure. And initially he resisted the calls because I think he said that it would be too expensive or it would take too much time. Yeah.
So he resisted calling a Royal Commission for, I guess, a few main reasons. You're right that the time was the biggest one. He said that he didn't want to delay action on the matter of anti-Semitism, and his government, they outlined 4 key ways that they would deal with it in the immediate sense. But you're right, that pressure just kept mounting. It started with an open letter from the families of victims who were killed in that terrorist attack, but it really grew to something much, much bigger. And parts of the media, you know, the political class, it felt like there were calls from everywhere. Ultimately, Anthony Albanese did agree to it. He got up, he said, we will run this. He announced Virginia Bell as the commissioner. And just a month later, we are already into the hearings.
Okay, Zara, so as you said, it's only a month between when Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced the Royal Commission and when the first public hearing is, which I have found quite surprising because, like you said, one of the big hesitations was just how long Royal Commissions take. So how has it happened so quick?
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm the co-founder of TDA. With one button, 82% of you who aren't subscribed to this YouTube channel can change that and help Australian media. Click subscribe. Now back to the video.
You're right that it usually does take a bit longer. If we're to use the example of the Veteran Suicide Royal Commission again, that inquiry was established in July 2021. It had its first opening hearing at the end of November that year. So I'm not good at maths, a few months down the track, and then handed down its final report in September 2024, 3 years after it was created. So that's that one. To give you a sense of how quick this is going to go, the Royal Commissioner in the Antisemitism inquiry has been told that she needs to hand down an interim report by April this year.
So in 2 months.
Yep, in 2 months. And the final report needs to be handed down by the 14th of December, which is the 1-year anniversary of the terrorist attack.
Oh.
So the entire scope of this Royal Commission has been almost shrunk and has been shortened because there is this real public need for fast action. And that's what Anthony Albanese said. He said he doesn't want to draw this out. He wants there to be answers now, given it was the worst terrorist attack that has ever occurred on Australian soil. And so the hearings have started much quicker than they would have ordinarily.
And we mentioned that one concern previously was the cost of it. Do we know now how much it will cost?
We know from Senate estimates that the government's allocated around $130 million for this. Obviously, that can blow out if things take longer or, can be reduced if it's shorter, but that's how much they're earmarking for this Royal Commission.
And so it has started this week, but then it's going to go on for another few months.
Yeah.
What can we expect from it? For example, do we know who we will hear from?
We don't know exactly who we will hear from. I was listening in to the Commissioner as she opened the Royal Commission. It's being live streamed. If anyone's interested, you can all listen to it yourselves. It's on YouTube. But she was saying, and then certainly the lawyer that followed up was saying, that they want to hear from a range of stakeholders. They want this to be as inclusive as possible, but that's something that is very important is to hear the lived experience of Jewish Australians who were targeted in that anti-Semitic attack. That fits with what we understand the Commission will be looking at. So in any Royal Commission, there is something called terms of reference, which basically is just the breakdown of what they plan to cover. And for the terms of reference here, we know that they are mostly dealing with anti-Semitism. Things like what are the key drivers of it? What's the prevalence of it? We don't have very good understanding in the country about what does count as anti-Semitism and what doesn't, for example. So it's going to focus on that. It's also going to focus on how the government and other institutions, cultural institutions, for example, can respond to anti-Semitism. It's also going to look into the circumstances that led to that terrorist attack. So what were the intelligence agencies to know? What did they not know? What were the gaps? And hopefully the idea is to stop something like that ever occurring again. I will just finish, though, by saying it's very important to highlight that there is a criminal case currently underway for one of those alleged gunmen who didn't die. The other one, the father, did die, but he appeared in court for the first time earlier this month, and that trial is happening almost in parallel to this Royal Commission. And so it's very important, and the Commissioner made clear that this Royal Commission cannot prejudice that case. They cannot have anything that would affect justice being played out in a criminal court, which is kind of challenging because they have to interrogate what actually happened as part of what they're looking into. So that was one of the hesitations when it came to this Royal Commission, but we do know that they are very aware of it, obviously, and will do everything they can not to influence that case.
And just quickly before we go, it's a Royal Commission into Antisemitism and Social Cohesion. What does the social cohesion part of it mean? So what we understand from the terms of reference is that social cohesion is a reference to how our democracy is functioning, how the rule of law is being upheld, and how this multicultural country is operating. Virginia Bell, in her opening statement, did reference the fact that there are other hatreds that exist in Australia, but she said that given what happened in December, the primary focus here would be on anti-Semitism. It will be something that we will be hearing a lot about in the coming months. Thank you for taking us through that. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Daily Aus. We'll be back later today with your evening headlines, but until then, we hope you have a great day.